Today we will talk about how to turn creativity into sustainable income. And our guest is Liz Kohler Brown. She's an artist and a designer. She licensed her artworks and specializing in creating art for greeting cards, fabrics, and wallpapers. And actually, Liz her artworks are globally licensed, and also she is an owner of a very successful art business, big community for creatives. And today we'll discuss with her some secrets of art licensing and also how to choose platforms on print on demand, how to prepare your work, what are the main tips on print on demand, and how to build the membership communities. It's also a very interesting topic because I'm sure that many of you are members of some creative clubs, drawing clubs, and so on, and it's really interesting to know the behind the scenes of this type of art business. And Liz, if you are here, yeah, I see. So you're welcome to drop any comments you might have to me or Liz in the comments, and any questions. And also, if you don't want to miss any highlights from this interview, you are really welcome to subscribe to the newsletter, and then you will get everything in your. So one more time today, the topic is how to turn creativity into sustainable income, and any questions you might have. Hi, Liz.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for the glowing intro. You make me sound so wonderful.
But it's true. Actually, we had a conversation with Lisa before, and also I went through your website, and there's so much helpful information for anyone who is interested in pattern design and licensing, and it's amazing. I can't understand how you do all this, and I'm curious
Oh,
to know.
well, I have a lot of help. It's not just me anymore. I mean, it started out as just me for the first 3 or 4 years, and then I ended up starting with a virtual assistant, and now I have 4 people who work for me. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. It always looks like it's the Liz show, but a lot of people pulling strings and doing the hard work on the back end while I just like draw pretty flowers and put them on the internet.
Uh, can you please share first about your background, about your journey to art?
Sure. I started out in ceramics, actually. I thought I was going to be a ceramic artist. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, which is known for crafts and pottery. It's like the heart of the arts there. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a little like cabin in the woods where I make pots and people just come and buy them and it would all be great. But it turns out that pottery is like really heavy and dirty and it's a lot of work, y'all. It's like backbreaking work. I kept meeting all these old potters who had like bad backs and there's all these lung issues that can go along with it because of the dust. So I was like, I just want to make art and it not have to be so hard. I want it to be fun. So I discovered the iPad at some point in there, and my husband and I decided to move to Thailand because we were like, the normal like 9 to 5 thing is just not working for us. We're going to quit our jobs. We sold all our stuff and we moved to Thailand. And so obviously when you're traveling around like that, it's nice to have a small batch of creative supplies. So I was thinking maybe I'll do like watercolor. It's kind of what I knew was making art on paper, but I discovered the iPad and realized that you can do so much on the iPad, so many different techniques and styles and textures and colors. And I mean, on and on. Like, I discover stuff every day still. So, fast forward like 7-ish years later, and I'm still drawing on my iPad, and I love it so much because I can work anywhere. And now I'm a mom, I've got 2 kids. So, I'm all over the place, driving them places, waiting at the doctor's office. It's just so nice to have like this compact little iPad that I can take anywhere, create anywhere, no matter where we are. So yeah, that's how I got started, and that's where I am now, just drawing on my iPad I have a little tiny house studio. So
Oh,
my studio is a little tiny house, like the kind that's on wheels. Everyone's always like the wheels? Yeah, like on wheels. It's just got a little kitchen and a workspace. So I'm loving it. I'm living my dream.
that sounds wonderful. So you started to create drone iPad, but how did you switch to licensing art to create patterns and to sell your art?
So I started on Spoonflower. I was actually working at Spoonflower right out of college. I discovered them and was like, what's this whole pattern thing? What's this whole repeats? I don't know what that is. So I was working at Spoonflower in marketing and customer service, and I was seeing all these artists make art, put it on the internet, and people were paying them. And I'm like, man, that is my dream to like be able to make art in my house and not have to. I mean, I was at the time driving around to galleries, going to craft fairs, lugging like 100-pound boxes around of pottery and stuff like that. So I was willing to do just about anything to make the whole surface design thing work. So we put up a few patterns. My husband and I kind of played with it together, and put up like a really silly like motorcycle pattern one night, and woke up the next day and somebody had bought it, and it was like $2, but it was like proof of concept. If I make designs and put them on the internet, then people will buy them. So that's kind of part of our whole Thailand story too. We were like, okay, we've been doing this for a few months. Every time we put 50 more patterns, our income goes up. So it's like, why not just quit doing everything and focus on this for a while and build that up? Flash forward 5,000 designs later, we had a shop that was full-time income, and we had this moment of like, okay, the shop is our income now. So now what do we do? Like, what do you do when you don't have to work? It's such a weird moment. So I started teaching on Skillshare because I've always been a teacher. I've always loved sharing my process and just making lots of designs. And so in the meantime, our Spoonflower designs were out there on Google, had the SEO from the tags, titles, and descriptions, and people were finding them and contacting us and saying, can we use your pattern for this and that? I had no idea what licensing was back then. There were no classes about licensing. We were like, sure, just PayPal us $50. It was just super casual, no contract. So we've evolved over the years. It became necessary to get a little more serious about it, obviously, and start reading contracts, um, upping our fees each time a new licensing opportunity came around. So it started with really small stuff, like, can we put your dog on our dog bandana and print like 10 units? We're like, sure, that sounds great. And then towards the end, I mean, it's not the end yet, but later on, we were doing bigger jobs. Like, if anyone's seen Space Force from Netflix, it was like a Netflix series with Steve Carell where he goes into space and it's a comedy. There was this whole moonscape repeat pattern background, and we made that because they saw one of our moon patterns and they were like, could you make it a little more like this and that? So we were doing like stuff for a Netflix show, which it's crazy how it evolved from, we're just sitting in an apartment like, could we put a motorcycle up online and repeat it, to a few years later, we were like making patterns for a Netflix series. So, yeah, I don't know how it happened. It seems crazy when I say it all because I know a lot of work went into it, but at the same time, it feels like just a big blur of patterns in my brain.
It sounds fantastic actually, and I have so many questions. Let's come back to the Spoonflower. When you said that you uploaded the first pattern and there was the first sale when you were sleeping, what year was it? And
I
did
think
it,
that was, oh, go ahead.
hmm? uh,
Go ahead. Yeah, I think it was
uh,
like 2015.
2015. Did you
Yeah.
promote it somehow, or it was the sale on Spoonflower? You didn't use any social media and saying that, hey, here's my pattern.
I have never promoted print on demand at all. I
Mm-hmm.
have never marketed any
Yeah.
print on demand stuff. I mean, like marketing, like ads or social media posts. I mean, our main shop that makes a full-time income doesn't, I mean, we have a social media, but we don't use it. I would call marketing for print on demand focusing on tags, titles, and descriptions so that you get found in search. Because for me, the whole idea of marketing for something that you can't track, like if I post on my Instagram about my Spoonflower designs and somebody goes and buys it, I don't know that, right? I don't have tracking data that tells me you came from Instagram and you bought something on Spoonflower. So for me, like I'm not going to put ad spend or marketing time behind something that I can't track and prove that it's working. In my mind, I don't think it works. I don't think that we as artists are going to be very good at finding customers who want to buy patterns on print on demand. I think the pattern companies, the print on demand companies, they know what they're doing. They're finding you customers. You just need to do a good job of being there in a big way with like beautiful designs and tags, titles, and descriptions. I think when these print on demand companies say, like, promote your designs on social media. What that really does is like it's good for the company because you're saying the company's name over and over. Come to my blank blank shop. Come see my blank blank shop. It's like that's great for them, but I don't believe that we are sending qualified buyers to the print on demand shops and making them buy. I mean, I don't have the data again because we can't see the data. So for me, it's like if I'm going to promote something, I need to be able to see on the back end that it's actually working.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my philosophy. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's what I've always done.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and helpful also to know your opinion. And do you use Gelato also? It's print on demand company, right? So you don't promote it either on social media or somewhere, the products that you sell with this company.
So that the only exception there is that I use Etsy ads.
Mhm.
So Etsy ads do allow you to track and they'll tell you like you paid this much in ads, you got this much in revenue. So that's a case where you are allowed to see that tracking data. So I do Etsy ads because I feel comfortable with that. And so like let's say somebody sees my listing on Etsy from an ad, they purchase it, Gelato prints it, they ship it to the customer, and then I get to see on the back end, oh, you paid $5 today for ads, and so bought $30 worth of products. So this is how much money you made this day. So that for me is the one exception where I will advertise print on demand.
Mhm.
But my main philosophy is like I don't pay for something that I don't know if I'm getting my money back, right?
Mhm.
Or that it's at least getting me eyeballs on my stuff. So like you said, Gelato, I use Gelato. I also use Printify. I'm not set on one particular drop shipping or print on demand fulfillment company. I'll try it all. I have like a lot of different tests going on, but I love Etsy because they have that tracking option. Because for artists, you know, we want to advertise our stuff, right? We want to put it out on social media, but we feel kind of silly doing that and then not being able to see if it's working. So that's one thing I love about Etsy. I use Etsy now almost every day. I sell calendars, cards. I sell little ornaments on there. And so this is all done with print on demand. So I don't actually ship anything from my house. I used to do that, but that became very annoying and boring. So now I don't ship anything. The print on demand fulfillment companies do that for me.
Uh, Thank you for clarification. It's really interesting to know. And you mentioned that you after you uploaded that pattern, then you made 5,000 patterns, right? How much time did it take? Because it's a lot. And were all these 5,000 also on Spoonflower, or maybe you launch your own website with patterns?
So that 5,000 number is from our original shop, and it does include color versions. That's something I should say. So, like, 5,000 sounds like a lot, right? But imagine this little motif
Mm-hmm.
is considered a pattern, like one little motif is a pattern. So take that and make 10 color versions of it. That's 10 patterns. So you can call that 10 patterns. So it sounds crazy, but like, how many of these could you draw in an hour? You know, I don't know, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could do 100 patterns in an hour by that math. So it's not like that crazy. When I say 5,000 patterns, I know it sounds crazy to people, but when you get into it and you have a system, which I do a lot of tracking with, like how many color versions I've made of each design and how many sales we've had of each design type. And we also were very strategic about what designs we were focusing on. So, like, we made an initial batch that was like 50 designs to kind of see like what search terms are people into and what are not so saturated. I mean, you guys know flowers, it's hard to get found with flowers as your search term, but like um, Pomeranian dogs, like not a lot of people making Pomeranian dog patterns, and you can do it in an interesting style and suddenly be like at the top of search. So we were very strategic about what those patterns were, and then looking at sales numbers from previous months and saying, oh, wow, it looks like our patterns with this particular theme are selling more. Let's do more color versions of that. So that could be 50 patterns in a day, just making color versions of a design that you already know is successful. So that's one thing I want to say is I don't think it's a good idea to like, okay, I'm just going to put my head down and make 5,000 patterns and then I'm going to have success. That's not really how we did it. It was like a monthly analysis. And, I should say here, my husband is a numbers person and he knows a lot about spreadsheets and tracking and all that. And he would just kind of tell me like, hey, designs like this are doing really well. Like if you could make some more of those, go ahead and do that. And then I'd give him like 10 images and that would turn into all those color versions. So I want to say that so that it doesn't sound like I actually just sat down and made 5,000 patterns one day. it was a long process of like, checking analytics. And I still do that today. At this point, my design volume is smaller because I make more detailed stuff. Like for me now, a pattern is more like a lot of different elements, like it's not just one thing as a pattern. I had to draw all these different boots and then I had to draw all the different cactuses that actually fit in there. So my patterns that I make now are more labor intensive. So I don't think current me could build a shop to that size. But it worked at the time. It did the job and it got me, freedom, which I think a lot of people say, well, I don't want to make designs that I don't like or that I think are just for trends because that takes away my creative freedom. But what I would say is like, there's nothing better than time for your creative freedom. So if you can do something with your creative skills to buy you time, like do that, because you can do other creative projects that fulfill your wildest creative dreams, but there are those projects that you do that aren't quite so sexy that make you a lot of money and then give you freedom and time. Like, I told you about the Steve Carell moonscape. Like, I don't have a passion for realistic moonscape seamless designs. That's not like my thing. But I also love selling designs to a really big company that pays a lot. So I think we have to balance that, like doing what you love, you're super passionate about with this is the stuff that the customers want and it gives me like a stability in my life.
I think it's really smart to analyze the numbers and to create designs on what is in high demand in your portfolio. I'm also curious, did you use any kind of platform like Spotify or something, or maybe someone helped you to build that site with 5,000 patterns? And how did you attract viewers? So what kind of tools did you still using to get the customers on your website? Because it's not enough to have a website with 5,000 patterns. You need people who see this and buy them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I have never sold patterns on my own website. I mean, I've sold patterns to art licensors through a website, but the place where I uploaded originally 5,000 patterns is Spoonflower. So, because I worked at Spoonflower, I had the benefit of having some of the back end knowledge about things, and just enough to know that, like, if you don't have words that are attached to your designs, nobody's going to find them. So, our marketing, I would say, was making sure that the tags, titles, and descriptions were super descriptive and contained words and phrases that would attract the kind of people we wanted. So, like, this is an example here of a cactus pattern, right? So you would make a list of words that were all about this pattern. So cactus, of course, would be one of them, but there's all these other words attached to that, like Southwest vibes, Arizona, desert, cowboy, cowboy boot. So there's all these like worlds around each design that you can use to pull people in. So that's really the only kind of marketing we did to get our Spoonflower shop up, was tags, titles, and descriptions, and literally just copied exactly what it says on Spoonflower's like help doc for how to do that. So it's nothing secret. It's nothing like I could divulge a super secret for you. It's literally what they say to do for all designers to do. But when you go to Spoonflower, go look around Spoonflower, you guys, and you'll notice this. A lot of people have designs that are just like cute cats is the title. That's it. And then it's like, why can't anyone find my pattern? Cute cats isn't enough, right? It needs to have all of those words and worlds around it that help people find it and get it to the top of search. So we did that on Spoonflower. We did it with 5,000-ish designs. And then we took our top several hundred, maybe like 500 of those, and put them on Society6 and Redbubble, and literally just copied and pasted tags, titles, and descriptions from one to the next. And then that immediately opened up a new income stream. With we didn't even have to make the designs because they were already made and they'd been tested on Spoonflower. So it was like we had the evidence that people are buying these particular topics, and let's just move them over to this other platform. And then once we had all of those various platforms going at the same time, they were kind of referencing each other, because in the title or the description, it would be like, check out all our shops. So, oh, you really like pugs? Well, go over to this other shop and you'll find a very similar design on Society6 where you can buy mugs and t-shirts and wallpaper and all kinds of stuff. So I would say, like, the very, very basic print on demand marketing that people absolutely have to do is tags, titles, and descriptions. Like, go ahead and read the help docs on whatever sites you use and see exactly what they want you to do. And they will reward you by putting you higher in search.
There is a question in the comments. I see you still have a Spoonflower shop. Do you continue to upload in and make money there, or are they older designs that keep making your money?
So I have not uploaded a pattern to print on demand in a while. And that's mainly because as I've transitioned into licensing, I can make a lot more per pattern on licensing deals than I can on print on demand. Now, that's just a fact of print on demand. It's all about high volume, low income per design. Whereas, except for like your super top sellers, of course, there's going to be some weird ones that it's like, why have I made $3,000 off of this weird chicken pattern? I have no idea, but it just is what it is. Um, but for me at this point, I have several licensors who sell my work on certain products that they want exclusive access to. So most of my new collections I can't put on print on demand because I've already promised those to other companies who are printing them on products that conflict with print on demand. Like the fabric company doesn't want your fabric on Spoonflower because then someone could go get it way cheaper. And it also, I found that the print quality with licensors is always better. And so I've gotten to a point with my licensing where I just want better quality for my examples that I show on social media. So I prefer at this point to use my art for licensing. That being said, we still make a regular income from our shops, even though we haven't touched them in years. So it's worth the work. And I think there's like a secondary bonus to doing print on demand that, everybody talks about print on demand is about making money, get more money. The secondary bonus is you can explore your style and you can just make volume of designs, like large volumes, and like, okay, I'm going to go through a gouache phase for 3 months and make 50 gouache patterns and experiment with that and not feel that pressure of it's like, this is my licensing portfolio. It has to be perfect. It has to be my style. It has to be all those things that like drown our creative energy. So for me, print on demand was like a really fun way to just experiment and throw everything at the wall. And like a lot of it didn't work. Like a lot of my patterns never sold, never got looked at. And it's just something you have to accept that like print on demand is governed by search. It's all about getting your patterns found. It's not necessarily about having the most beautiful, perfect pattern in the world. So I hope that answered that person's question. It's like print on demand was great for me at a certain stage. But at this point, I enjoy working with companies and I've got some relationships going with companies. So it doesn't make sense for me now to upload to print on demand. But I still get found through there. Like just a couple years ago, I got an email from Target that was like, hey, can we license your design? And it was something I had made a really, really long time ago and I didn't even like it anymore. And I was kind of disappointed that it was one of my older designs, but the SEO is still out there and almost to the point that you're like, ooh, I can't get rid of it, like this thing's gonna haunt me forever. People are gonna be like, can you make me a custom design just like this one? And it's like, oh, I don't even want to do that. No, thank you.
Another question in the comment: what's a reasonable price to start asking for license deal?
That is so dependent on so many different factors. So let's talk about the factors that might affect your pricing. How many licensing deals you've had in the past? What kind of collaborations do you have on your list? That's going to affect the company's like understanding of who you are and what you might be charging. Another thing would be how many units are they selling and how much are they pricing it for? So let's do some examples. Somebody contacts you and says, we want to print your design on 5 ornaments. We're only going to sell 5 ornaments and they're $10 each. What would you charge for that? I would charge about 10%, like 10% of what you think they're going to make is fine. Now let's say Coca-Cola contacts you and says, we want to print your design on Coke cans and we're going to print 20 million of them. Obviously, you're going to make a lot more money off of that deal compared to the local guy selling 5 ornaments. So there's so many variables like that, including like what products are they, what territories are they in, how complicated is the design. So really what happens is each designer and or each company does their own custom pricing. And it's based on a formula that you invent. So like, for example, someone contacts me and says, I'd like you to design us a greeting card. How much does that cost? Or they might say, this is the price that we pay. Sometimes they offer you a price, sometimes they ask you. But in the end, my rule for like somebody getting started who's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I have no idea how to do this, I would say, like, what is your reasonable hourly rate? Like, what do you consider your reasonable hourly rate? If it's a custom job, then maybe put that number out there and double it. So let's say this design took you an hour and you think you should make about $30 an hour. Start with $60. And then that will flex depending on how many units they're going to print. Like 10% is a good number for a lot of people, 10 to 15% of the profit that they're going to make. But yeah, it's so complicated because of that. It's like you have to just start somewhere. You can't let that complication like stop you from doing licensing, which I have heard of people that doing that. They're like, I can't do pricing, so I'm just not going to do licensing. My personal goal has always been to like slowly increase my prices over time. So right now it costs this much for me to do a greeting card for you. Next year it's going to cost this much, and then this, and just keep going up. And I also, do you guys like Mr. Beast? I don't know if anyone here watches Mr. Beast, but I saw a YouTube video that he was talking about pricing, and he said, take the price that you want to charge someone and double it. Because the worst that they're going to say is no and cut it down by like 25%. Like most people undersell themselves. And so go ahead and show that double price and see what happens. The worst thing they'll say is like, no, that's way out of our budget. Or just say, what is your budget? That's a great way to get it started, I think.
Yes, you're right. If we come back to print on demand, what advice, what top 5 tips or three you would tell to someone, to artists who is starting to sell their designs on the products using print on demand platforms?
I would say go to the print on demand platform where you want to be, where you want your work to be, and look at what is not completely oversaturated. So you can do that by putting words into search and seeing things that don't have a ton of pages. So let's say, for example, you want to be on Spoonflower, you want to be a fabric designer, and you want to build up that shop. Go to Spoonflower, type in some phrases of things that you think maybe not enough people are making designs about. And you probably already have something in mind because everybody goes to the store and is like, nobody makes designs like this. Nobody makes designs like with this on them. So that would be a good thing to do. And so let's say houseplants, for example. I feel like houseplants are super trending right now. There's not a ton of like beautiful designs on fabric related to that. So let's say you go to Spoonflower, you search houseplants, and you're like, ooh, there's only 9 pages. That's great. Like your average customer is certainly happy to search through 9 pages of content to get to a design that they really like, and people enjoy the shopping process. So I wouldn't feel like totally worried if I saw 9 or 10 or even 20 pages of designs under a certain theme, because what you'll find is when you get to the end of those pages, most of the designs don't even like qualify. You see all kinds of weird stuff that has nothing to do with houseplants. So that would be my first thing, is like identify those SEO terms that you are going to target, and then go make some art around that, and then make sure you're tagging, titling, and describing it on the site just as the help docs say to do. And then just repeat that process over and over until you have a lot of designs and start getting some sales. And then you can start judging like, okay, which ones are working, which ones are not working. You'll probably also start getting some messages from customers like, hey, I really like this design, but could you do it like this? Could you do it in this color version? My husband was like really good at this because he's a man, obviously, and the print on demand Spoonflower world is mostly women. I know it's not all women, but it's mostly women. So they make things that women think about or know about or whatever. He was like, nobody's making little boy stuff like trucks and airplanes and, you know, like stuff that grandma is going to want to make, put on something for her grandson. Um, we also talked to my husband's grandma because she quilts, and we're like, "What kind of patterns do you like?" And she's like, "Nobody makes good dog paw patterns. Like, I want pug paws, I want Chihuahua paws, I want Labrador paws, I want all the different paws." And our paw patterns were like some of our best sellers. We were always joking about like it's pugs and yeah, pugs and paws, baby, pugs and paws. That's what it's all about. Is like listen to the people who know what they're talking about. You know, grandma knows what she's talking about because she buys a lot of fabric. So it's not necessarily in your brain. Like you might need to get out of your brain a little bit and think about the actual customers who are on those sites. So let's go to like Society6. That's a lot much younger crowd. Like Spoonflower is a lot of people who sew. There's all age ranges there, but I'm guarantee that it skews older because that tends to be who sews. Society6 is more like decorate your dorm, decorate your first apartment. So that's going to be like more edgy stuff, more exciting, and like you're going to need to know what young people like. You're going to need to, you know, watch some TikTok. I don't know, like whatever you need to do to get in the mindset of that customer is what you need to do to be successful on print on demand.
I'm so amazed the way you're thinking about art and art business. It's very, I think it's so valuable for all the artists because usually, as creative people, designers and artists, they first think about, oh, what you want to draw and not what the audience is looking for. And but there definitely can be the common topics there.
Yeah.
My another question is about you have a studio, it's a membership, and what inspired you to create it? And can you please tell us a little bit about your studio?
Sure. So I have been a teacher all my life. I taught piano lessons when I was a teenager. I taught art classes for years, clay classes. I taught English as a second language to refugees and immigrants in our local community. I've just always been teaching. I lived in China for a while and taught English. So I'm like, that's my world. I feel so comfortable as a teacher, and it's like what I know. So when I started drawing on my iPad, I was like, immediately, like, how do I teach this? I just have to. And at the time, I really didn't know what direction to go in. Like, should I go the YouTube direction and keep it like free and public? Should I go the Skillshare direction and keep it paid, but it's a membership on their site, and so you just get paid by the minute? Should I do the Udemy thing, which is like you pay per course? So in the beginning, I kind of did a little bit of everything. I just sort of like put some stuff out there to see what would work. And Skillshare was definitely the most people who were interested and the most like minutes watched. So I just kind of got my groove with Skillshare. This is going to sound a lot like my print on demand story. I did a few Skillshare classes, they did really well. So then I did 50 classes. And then I kind of had this moment in my business. Actually, when we went to get a home loan, I went to get a home loan with my husband. We were ready to buy our house. I was pregnant, and we went into the bank, and I had a pretty good income. I was like not worried about it at all. I was like, we got this, man. We've been making good money for a few years. We've got stable income, not worried at all. And they looked at my income and they were like, Liz, this isn't like legit. Like, have you looked at their contract? Because they can take all your stuff down in a moment's notice. I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, Skillshare would be crazy to just take down a bunch of popular classes. That being said, legally speaking, I didn't have a business. I just had some content up on a company's site. And so the bank advisors thought was like, if you have all these people who are watching your classes, why are they not your customers? Why are you letting someone else own your content and you don't even have a contract that protects you? I never thought about about it that way. You know, it's like these platforms, and I would include things like Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and all the platforms that we don't own, control everything. They control everything on their platform. You don't own any of the content. They can shut you down next day. You say one wrong word that they don't like. We've been seeing this, right? Like, what is it? Cancel culture. People can be canceled for variety of reasons. Copyright infringement. Someone says, "Oh, you stole my pattern. Your pattern looks like mine. Tell this company to take it all down." They can. So I just started to feel that weight, and I'm like, I'm pregnant. I am having a kid. I can't afford to have a business that could just not exist at some point, you know? So in the meantime, throughout my Skillshare years, I was always growing my mailing list because I had heard that advice many times that, like, no matter what you do, grow that list because you're gonna need it eventually. And so when I got to that point on Skillshare, when I knew I needed to do my own thing, I used that list and I said, "Hey guys, everything starting from today is going into my membership. I'm not taking anything off Skillshare, but I'm not posting anything new there. Love Skillshare, love what they do, nice people, super sweet. However, the model is just not going to work for me in the long term." So I started my membership. Of course, rocky start trying to figure out how to do memberships. Like, how do you do it? How do you do that whole thing? It took me a long time to figure it out. And here we are 3 years later. Yeah, I think almost 3 years later. Um, and I'm super proud of my membership. We have a monthly live session, monthly critiques, new classes coming in all the time. We have ongoing series where new lessons come out all the time. And my members guide me to what they need and what they want. And they're like, "Hey, Liz, we really want to know more about this. How did you do that? How did you do this?" And I get to make videos about it. So, along that time, with all the work that comes along with this, I've hired a marketing and design assistant who helps me a lot with customer service and all kinds of stuff. I have a content manager who like uploads everything and puts all the words behind everything I do. I have a video editor, I have a business manager who manages all the like detail things in the background. So at this point, I'm a content creator again. I'm like back to the early days where I just get to draw and video it, and someone else does a lot of the hard stuff on the background. So, hi, Maggie Design, who says Liz is my fave ever, membership ever. Love you. Yeah, my members, that's another thing about building your own membership for anyone who's like, should I? Your members are going to be like your people, you know, they are going to guide you, they're going to be with you, they're going to support you, and you support each other by, you know, talking. And I mean, I video with my members all the time. We do conversations, we do live sessions. When you upload a lot of stuff, I also do YouTube. And when you upload a lot of stuff to places like that and Instagram and Facebook, you get a lot of like icky stuff, like haters and, you know, grumpy people, and you're not doing it right. And why are you even doing this? You're just wasting our time. And, you know, all of the things that people fear, it's out there, right? But when you run your own thing, when you have your own thing, you get to set the rules and you just end up attracting like the best people. So I love it. I was scared to do a membership like probably anyone would be, any normal person would be, but best decision ever, hands down.
Is it okay for you to share how many people are now there in your membership?
Sure. We have about 1,700 members
That's
and growing.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, could you please also describe briefly how did you manage to build this technically? Because it's a subscription, so it's a website where people have access. And
Mm-hmm.
usually artists use platforms like Patreon or something else, and you built everything from the scratch,
Yep.
right?
I started on Kajabi. I had Kajabi because I had done some courses in the past. So I was like, let's do Kajabi. That'll be easy. Um, it ended up not being sustainable because of they have some like requirements about how many entries you can have. And my membership is always growing. Like it's always things are being added. And so Kajabi just it didn't work for me. So we last year or this year, yeah, this year we moved the membership to a new platform, which was super scary, but the company I use now called Uscreen actually manages the migration. So they migrate your customers, payment information, content, video content, all the text that goes with it. So they migrate like a bunch of stuff at once, which was amazing. I mean, I couldn't have done it by myself. I have over 500 videos in my membership. So, like, it just was not a thing I could have ever done by myself. But it was also like Kajabi had gotten to the point where, like when you fill up your trash can and you just keep filling it and stuffing stuff down. And then one day you're like, I've just got to empty the trash can. And I know when I do that, everything's going to come pouring out. It's going to be a mess. That's what happened. But now we're on the other side. And the main reason I chose this platform that I use called Uscreen is that they have an app. No, they build apps for your membership. So my membership has an app. They built it, they manage it. Apple has all these like developer requirements, and you got to update this and that on a regular basis and make sure your tech is updated with the best code. Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff, but they do all that for you. So they run the app, and all I have to do is upload the content, and it just automatically goes in the app, which allows members to like watch stuff offline, download videos, make playlists. I mean, just have stuff on their phone. Like the future, as much as we don't want to admit it, is mobile devices, phones, these whole Google Glass, Meta Glass. I don't know what they're even called, but this is like the future of consuming content. And I think the big screens that are like sitting somewhere, like the laptops and the TVs, are not going to be our main source of content. So I really wanted to have my own app. I'm getting a little bitter about all the platforms, all the platforms like pulling the strings and we're going to take you out of the algorithm. We're going to change your position in search. Oh, we're going to delete this stuff. We're going to change this stuff. And it's like content creators are just getting like yanked around all the time. And like a few years ago, there was this whole thing about Facebook changing their ads, and so many people's businesses like either shut down or just had to completely change literally overnight, going from making like $10,000 a month to making zero a month. Like it rocked the world of online content creators. So for me, I'm trying to look ahead and think about like what's gonna be the future of content creation. That's where I want to build my world, not on something that could potentially be crumbling. So I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm trying.
You're doing fantastic things. I suppose you know your audience very well. Can you tell us, are your are people in your membership mostly professionals like designers, illustrators, artists, or is art a hobby for them? Did you make this analysis?
That is a really good question. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of different people. We have, I think, everything from like grandma who wants to make art just for her grandkids to a professional licensed designer who makes 100,000 a year. I know for a fact there's several people in there who license their art and make over 100,000 a year. People who do print on demand, people who do licensing. It really runs the gamut. And like we try to offer in the membership a really wide range. And this would be the advice to anyone who's thinking about starting a membership is like, if your membership is just one thing, like we do live sessions, that's all we do. You're only reaching like one type of person. But what I try to do is offer like a variety of things throughout the month so that, so and so who wants to just turn on and draw live with me once a month still can use the membership, even if they don't want to watch, say, the longer classes. Like, let's say they have a really busy life and they've got kids and they don't have time to watch a 2 hour class. They're like, don't even talk to me about the 2 hour class. but I can do this short live session. Or, I don't even want to watch the live drawing. I don't want to watch the long stuff. I just want the trend reports. Like, they're literally, I know there's people in there who just sign up for the trend reports that I send every month, because they're like, I just want to know what to draw that's trending and not have to research it myself. So that's one thing I would recommend to anyone thinking about starting a membership, is like, how could you offer a sort of variety of things that could take someone like 10 minutes to an hour and sometimes in between, so everybody can make use of it, because the number one resource we're all complaining about right now is time, right? Nobody has enough time. And so we have to be really mindful of that and sort of offer people like a variety of ways to consume our content.
What role does social media play in attracting new people to your membership or in your business? How much time do you invest in Instagram or other social media?
I'm trying to get better about that. I am on a new social media diet plan that is 4 hours once a week.
Oh,
So once a week, I do a 4 hour binge of creating content for the following week. And I usually do a little extra just in case my kid gets sick or something like that. So um, I like batching. I'm all about the batching because I think it saves us time. I mean, once you get the camera out, you get your stuff set up, it's just so much easier to do a lot at once. And then, of course, I check in like once a day and do like messages and comments and stuff. But I also have a marketing and design assistant who does that. So I don't have to check in, which for me is the ideal situation. Like, if I didn't have to use Instagram for my business, I would just delete the app. Like, I don't like consuming content, and I don't know why. I have so little time after having kids. I'm like, there's just no time for things other than drawing and kids. I'm just at that stage. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. So it's um it's something that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, the whole social media thing. It's like it takes a lot of time. And I can tell you from looking at the numbers on the back end, it's not very good with like immediate conversion. Like, I'm going to look at your reel right now and then go buy something. It's not really an immediate conversion kind of platform. None of these like social sites are. But they do help people get to know you so that maybe they will later become more of a high converting customer. So I would say, like, for any artist out there who's like, should I do social media? Should I not? I would say, like, do it, but do it very intentionally. Like, plan, have a plan, first of all, and maybe set aside 1 or 2 times a week to do all your content at once so you don't feel like you're on call all the time. Like, do I need to post on Instagram today? Do I need to do it today? It's like that nagging feeling like you're not doing enough. You didn't do it today. What's wrong with you? It gives you this really negative feeling, and you might be even in the middle of a drawing and you're like, I should be posting this on Instagram, shouldn't I? That kind of brings me down a little bit. Whereas if we're like batching it and controlling our world around social media, it's so much more livable, I think. So that's what I do. I'm trying to get better and better about like, this is my social media chunk and I don't do it any other time, and I'm not going to allow it to like break my creative flow in the middle of a day, that sort of thing.
yeah, it looks like that you have a really structured big business with many directions, and everything is very clear and good planned. I'm curious, how is your day look like? Do you use planners, calendars, or something like this? How structured you are in your daily routine, in your work, and how you combine this with kids, family, and all the rest?
Yeah, the kids is the number one constraint, because we have an au pair from Spain who lives with us, but of course she has set hours. So I have like 9:30 to 3:30 Monday through Friday is typically my work block. And I split that up between, creative projects, marketing projects. But for me, I'm a deep dive person. I'm a work blocks and deep dive person. I don't like doing like an hour of marketing in the morning and then an hour of drawing and then an hour of this. I just can't do that. I do it more like weeks. Like this week is all about my new pattern collection. Next week, I'm filming a class. Next week, so I need for my creative process at least to have like free wide open space. I'm not good at like these things that are like draw for 20 minutes a day or like October drawing challenge 10 minutes a day. I just for me it's just pointless. I'm like I'm not going to get anything done in 10 minutes. And there's also I recommend to everyone to read the book called Deep Work. Deep work is all about the science behind this. It's like your first 10, 20 minutes of doing something, you're not efficient, you're not thinking very clearly. And then you get into this deep work zone where you're like running on all cylinders. Some people call that the zone, the creative zone,
Flow.
flow. There's all these words for it. And so you're up in that zone, and then it's like Instagram notification, bam, out of the deep work zone. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to get back in it. Okay, I'm back in it. It's great. It's wonderful. Up, phone rings, down again. So for me, it's like I want to be up in that zone as much as I can. So I get everything done. I'm like emails, marketing, clean the studio, make my lunch, get it all organized. And then I have 3 hours to draw. And I lock my studio door. And if my husband comes up to the window, I'm like, hi, honey, love ya. Bye. No, I'm kidding. I let him in. But I protect that time. Like I'm careful about not letting things ping me all the time. And I think we live in a world of pings. It's like your phone's dinging, everything wants to take your attention. And there's scientific evidence that that makes us depressed to have our energy taken from one thing to one thing to one thing. Each time you switch your attention, you're like basically losing some of your happiness hormones for the day. And that's why if you do a lot of computer during the day, you probably feel a little depressed at the end of the day. So I try really hard to like cordon stuff off into work chunks, keep life simple, and keep all of that like notification, pinging, distraction stuff out of my world as much as I can. But I have kids too, so sometimes like, Mom!
Sounds familiar. My last question for today. Looking back, what would you tell your younger self when you first started this journey?
Hmm, that's so hard. I don't know that I would have done anything differently. I've never been like a regret person or a like you should have done it this way. I guess the only thing I would say is like you're doing it. Just keep doing it. Like don't doubt it so much. And I still struggle with doubt. I mean, all creatives do, but I'm getting better at it now because I trust myself more. But I think it's something I struggled with a lot in the early days is like, am I doing it wrong? Am I wasting my time? Am I doing the wrong thing? But everything you do, you're learning from, right? Even if you do a failed spoonflower shop, you've learned from it. And I had my share of failed shops. I had a failed Etsy shop. I think I had more than one failed Etsy shop. I've had print on demand shops that didn't sell anything. I've had classes that I've published in the last few years that have been total bombs. So for me, it's like, just be okay with it. Don't doubt yourself so much. Don't question everything you do. It's like imagine if you had someone in your life like that was on your shoulder that was like, you're not doing that right. That's not right. No, stop. It's like we do that to ourselves. We're constantly questioning and wondering and worrying. So that would probably be my number one thing is like just trust yourself. Just keep going and trust yourself. Trust your instincts for what you love and what you enjoy. and don't let you yourself be that little annoying demon on your shoulder telling you you're doing it wrong.
Thank you, Liz. I agree with the comments that you're really amazing, and today
Oh, thank you.
we learn so much from you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It was super interesting, super
Thank
helpful, and
you. I love talking to you, and I love your work because I just got to interview you.
oh, there's something with internet connection, I suppose. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Yes, something with the internet. Okay, I'm happy that we finished with the questions, and I'm not sure if anyone can hear me, but I will write a message to Liz. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Liz. See you next time.